This video is my last in the spring wild camping series. I will still camp out at my out-the-way bay in the Promised Land, but it's now summertime. At the start of May I loaded up the boat with gear for another few days adventuring. A warm dry spell of weather was in the forecast and I was keen to go camping again. I was also very keen to try out a new gift to myself, a DJI Mini 3 Pro drone and its RC controller. It was all work and no play as I passed the Bono quarry on my way to the Promised Land. And it was now very noticeable that there was plenty of greenery in the scenery. Now the trees were in leaf. Temperatures were now much warmer and the beautiful broom was in full bloom, a vibrant yellow colour contrasting with the green leaves. I was really looking forward to a few days with the freedom of wild camping, surrounded by nature and its beautiful sights. To once again enjoy the silence of my own solitude in this wonderful wilderness. As I happily made my way to the little out-the-way bay, I never once realised what a stressful day it would actually be. As I approached my camp spot, I felt like I was landing in heaven. It was such a warm, calm day. Once on dry land, my priorities were to unload the boat, assemble a chair, then relax having a coffee while admiring the views. Then I set up my tent and installed my sleeping mat, bag and inflatable pillow, before having another coffee. And then it was time to stack my stash of logs left over from a previous trip, knowing the warm air would dry them off nicely. Now the camp chores were complete, in the infamous words of Monty Python, I said to myself, "No more butter scones for me, matey. I'm going to fly my aeroplane." And that is exactly what I did. I set up my brand new drone for its first flight, and then it was up in the air as I hummed those magnificent men and their flying machines. I should perhaps add that although I'd never flown a drone before, 20 or so years ago I spent a lot of time making and flying scale radio-controlled aeroplanes and even competed quite successfully at Scottish level. It's the very reason I always gave that drones were not for me, as experience told me what goes up must come down, and it's not always the way we plan landing. I was, however, very surprised and happy to find that drones actually fly themselves, and much easier than models from my past. Granted, my video footage in this first flight is nothing to write home about, but the very fact that it was a successful flight filled me with delight. The drone let me portray my little out-of-the-way bay and campsite in a manner totally new to me, and it gives me another string to my bow for my video tales. Despite my previous radio-controlled flying experience, the adrenaline was pumping through my body as I controlled the drone, as they're not cheap things to buy. I did gasp with relief once I'd landed safely, but in the same gasp I was keen to try it again. I had purchased the Fly Longer pack when I bought the drone, so I had 3 charged batteries. Well, 2 full ones left now, so decided on a change of scenery. I motored around to the ruined piers east of Bar, where I landed. I also ate my fishing rod doing a spot of fishing to calm flying nerves. Nothing was biting except the urge to get the drone in the air again, so I gave way to temptation. I'm afraid drone flying is becoming very addictive. I admit my eyesight is not the best, although probably typical of any person nearing 70 years of age, and this was another reason I always put off buying a drone. However, it's not really a problem as I can fly the drone as fast or as slow as I want. I have also limited its range so it can't fly any further than 200 metres from me or higher than 50 metres. That way it's always within sight, and if for some reason I do lose sight of it, I can press the return to home button and it will fly itself back to where it took off. I was now that confident I let the drone hover and video me while fishing. I'm glad I didn't catch anything though, as that could have put me in a panic. To land again, I always hit return to home and it lands itself automatically. It really is that simple, isn't it? 2 batteries down, I was now keen to get the third flight in, so headed for a lovely sandy beach on the other side of the loch. I landed and put in the last battery, then took to the air again, as I was thoroughly enjoying the drone. It was my third flight and I was full of confidence. I felt I was even getting a hang of composing the scenery for the video. I managed to operate spotlight function so the drone followed me. I let the drone hover as I removed the spotlight function, then started to fly it low and slow above the loch. I wanted to video the seabeds, so was only around 3 metres above the water. Sadly, the drone got confused by water reflections and decided to become a submarine. It landed and sank like a stone in 6 feet of water. Drone over time, it never flew again. I headed back to camp as sick as a parrot and hating drones. I sat in a daze thinking of the money 3 flights had cost. I watched the rain cloud collect above Glenclin Glass. I tried to console my damp mood by thinking I can't see a rainbow unless it rains. Then I thanked my gods that I had insured the drone and should get another one for free or this one repaired. The next moment the heavens opened and it poured with rain. I had to retire to the tent for an hour until it went off. I then cooked my sausages but didn't enjoy them like normal. My loss still made me feel sick. Now everything was soaking wet. In the still damp air, the first midges of the year appeared, and they fair enjoyed eating me, which only made my mood worse. Initially, I wasn't going to bother with a fire, as the wood was also soaked, but the ferocity of the midge attack changed my mind, and I thought a smoky fire would dampen their appetite. Once the dry kindling which I had kept in the tent was burned, The fire struggled to go, a bit like me, so a quick waft helped the flames along, and a quick draught of gravy helped me along. My usual concoction of brewdog and Guinness failed to lift my mood, so it was an early to bed night, and even that turned into a bit of a nightmare, as I was awakened by the bark and grunts of some deer very close to the tent. I know they are generally very timid animals, but I also know that late at night they can turn into werewolves and trample me to death. So I didn't sleep well. I can honestly say this day and night was my worst ever in the promised land. When I got up the following morning, the scenery matched my mood, damp and despondent. The midges were absolutely murder in the still, warm and wet air. I didn't even stop for breakfast or a coffee, knowing they were there and I was not prepared for them. I packed the boat as fast as I could and headed for home, a broken man mourning the death of his drone. I wasn't down for long though. 5 days after contacting DJI Refresh Care Service, a brand new drone arrived at my door. Sterling service from DJI. I couldn't wait to get flying again, so headed back to the promised land the following day. It was overcast and hazy atmosphere, but at least it was dry and not too windy. I was just out for the day, so I had no intention of camping, but I did stop in the out-the-way bay for a coffee and to trample flat the now sprouting bracken over the area I pitched the tent. I still intend to camp here on occasion, so don't want it overgrown by the bracken. Because I already had some drone footage of the campsite, I headed round the corner to Ruba Bar and parked a guppy in the river mouth, just as the sun tried to come out. I set up the drone and took to the air, but this time I kept mostly over the land. In much the same way the Civil Aviation Authority will investigate a crash, I'd given a lot of thought as to why my drone crashed. I was flying at around 3 metres above the loch when I noticed it slowly losing altitude. Then it quickly lost all height and hit the water. Upon rereading the instruction manual, I read that the drone can become unstable flying over water as reflections can affect its sensors, and it's advised not to fly below 10 metres above the water due to this instability. I guess that's what had made my drone initially lose altitude. I also note that I operated the down direction instead of the up direction of the joystick. I also know why. I had only a split second to react to the drone losing height. When I flew remote-controlled aircraft, I always pulled the joystick towards me, which made the elevator go up in the plane, so it flew upwards. It's the opposite to the drone. Pulling a joystick towards me made it descend even faster. Therefore, instinct from years of flying planes had taken over. At least I was happy I knew why the drone was lost, so I could hopefully not repeat the mistake. I had now made the decision to fly at a minimum of 10 metres high and mostly keep it over land. I was also very careful to avoid the trees, as I could see that was a sure way to lose it if it crashed high in the tree. I confess I was very nervous on this flight, but I soon gained a bit of confidence again, so once I landed safely I couldn't wait to have the next flight. I decided to go to Dal for my next flight, and as I went there, I had a timely reminder not to fly the drone too high. The maximum legal height is 120 metres, but I have put the limit to 50 metres in mine. This Hercules must have been around 200 metres high. I landed the boat off Dal Beach and then launched the drone there. The hazy atmosphere and dull colours of this day were not good for photography, so I recorded the footage in D-Cinelight, which is a flat look, and then I colour graded it myself, as I'm still trying to find the best video settings which suit me. I felt far more confident flying the drone this time around, keeping it higher and not flying over the water. I must admit that I find the new perspective the drone footage gives is fascinating and helps portray just how much a wilderness surrounds Loch Etive. This is an aerial view of the campsite where I almost froze to death when camping in February. I then flew over Dal House, which was sadly destroyed by a house fire around 4 years ago. The drone footage certainly complements my video camera work, and I'm looking forward to incorporating it in future adventures. That is assuming I don't crash and burn again. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.